Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Anthony Carlisle. Thank you for joining us. Coming up in the show today, 23 new volunteers received their blue and white uniforms at a training program in the Philippines. In our regular look at Taiwan's traditional trades, we meet the master sword maker who reproduced the blades for the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And volunteers in Langley, Canada hold their annual Adopt a Street campaign to clear the pavements of litter. First up today, at a training seminar for new Tzu Chi volunteers in the Philippines, among the participants who were awarded their official blue and white uniforms was a 75-year-old woman called Josie Pua. Despite her age, she collects regular donations from 80 people. As for herself, even though she earns a small amount of money on the Relief for Work program, she manages to spare 1,000 pesos a month for Tzu Chi. A senior volunteer hands a blue and white uniform to 75-year-old Josie Pua, who cannot suppress her joy. 2 years ago, she started fundraising and already has 80 members. She also scrimps and saves to donate 1,000 pesos a month.
It is only in Tzu Chi that I see how they extend help to the elders to have a better livelihood. For those who will be awarded uniforms, they will have to be mindful and value that uniform.
Held at the Jingsa Hall in the Philippines, a total of 23 volunteers like Josie received their blue and white uniforms today. Josephine Castaneda from Tatulon in Quezon City is already busy with fundraising and recycling.
I have my family's support in doing this, especially helping other Filipinos. My children have finished their studies and are working. Now that I have received the blue and white uniform, I will be serving full-time here in the Tzu Chi Foundation.
An experienced fundraiser has some advice for the newly qualified volunteers.
When we solicit money from the donors, we mustn't over-enthusiastically introduce them to Tzu Chi, but be friendly and polite and promptly give them a receipt so we don't lose their trust.
As well as learning about the responsibilities of a Tzu Chi volunteer, everyone at the training seminar gets a veggie passport to encourage them to eat 108 vegetarian meals before Buddha Day.
Actually, I started eating vegetarian in April last year and carried on until now without eating meat.
For all the trainees, wearing the Tzu Chi uniform means taking on more responsibilities and also marks a new beginning in their volunteer work. Hong Rui-xiang was a respected entertainer in Taiwan who acted in television dramas, sang on stage and appeared in advertisements. On March 23rd, she committed suicide and tragically died at the age of 43. On Tuesday, her family and friends held a memorial concert for her. In our next report, we look back on Hong Rui-xiang's life. In 2005, Hong Rui-xiang starred in the drama Wind of Caoshan and also sang the theme song. Her versatile talents took her to the top of her profession.
When the DaAi children asked me to sing, the first time I went into the studio, I was already very touched.
The all-round entertainer tragically ended her life at the age of 43. Hong Rui-xiang's family and friends decided to remember her at this evening gathering.
I think if I came today, she would be very happy because this is her concert. I hope she is here because in a moment, a lot of people are going to sing songs for her to hear, and they're all her favorite old songs. At my older sister's memorial concert, as her younger sister, I should do something in her memory, and I hope everyone will always remember her performances.
他曾演出的所有的剧这样子。
As well as commemorating the all-round performer, Hong Rui-xiang's friends and family hope to turn their grief and sorrow into a positive force for good. Yesterday we showed you how the advent of modern elevators changed the way we live, and we introduced you to one of the first elevators in Taiwan. Today we look at the world's fastest elevator in the Taipei 101 building, which has an impressive top speed of 60 kilometers an hour.
This is Taipei 101, the country's tallest building. Elevators certified by the Guinness World Records as the world's fastest are right inside.
Towering 101 floors above the ground, Taipei 101 is like a small city. The most important transportation inside this city is the elevator.
The elevators have a maximum speed of about 60 kilometers per hour. In 1 minute, they can climb 1,010 meters.
Thanks to high-speed elevators, skyscrapers come to life. At Taipei 101, the two high-speed elevators to the observatory deck have been attracting tourists worldwide.
Going up, the elevators can get you to the observatory in about 36 seconds. Going back down takes about 47 seconds. On average, every 3.5 minutes, one round trip is made.
Featuring the latest technology, the two elevators can transport 9,000 people in 1 day. As of the end of April, they have ferried over 10 million customers.
I don't think so.
太困难了一点，这89楼冰是有点太高了。
请看两侧荧幕显示电梯楼层。
Perhaps that there would be no Taipei 101 without elevators is a true statement. Precision engineering of the elevators ensures speed, comfort, and safety. The cabins are aerodynamic to minimize wind resistance. In case of abnormal descending speed, power will be cut off automatically, and brakes will be applied to clamp down on the steel cables to stop the cabin safely.
If something goes wrong and the cabin is in free fall, its speed can possibly exceed 1,300 meters per minute. That's why we employ thermal resilient ceramic brakes to stop the cabin.
15 Japanese engineers maintain the elevators and are on standby 24 hours a day.
Currently, we use about 10 steel cables in each elevator. The length of the cables is about 449 meters in total. Replacing an elevator's cables will take about 7 to 10 days.
In total, Taipei 101 employs 111 elevators, which integrates the space inside the building seamlessly. Elevators were invented for the convenience of our lives, yet as more high-rises are erected, they have become an integral part of our lives.
There are about 160,000 elevators in service in Taiwan, with 6,000 new ones added every year. Not only has the invention changed our lives, but it has also changed our perception and utilization of space.
Back in the year 2000, the film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, directed by Ang Lee, was a resounding success at the box office as well as the award ceremonies. The huge array of swords and other weapons featured in the martial arts film were made by blacksmith Guo Changxi. In our feature on Taiwan's traditional trades, we meet Master Guo.
The 2000 film Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon made director Ang Lee an international household name. Bladesmith Guo Changxi from Chieding in Taiwan's Kaohsiung City was responsible for making the hundreds of weapons featured in the motion picture, including the sword called Green Destiny.
The sword belonged to Sun Quan from China's Three Kingdoms period. The blade is emblazoned with 100 dragons. You must run the sword under cold water while the metal is still hot. After a while, while moss will start growing on the surface and give the blade a green tinge. That's how the sword got the name of Green Destiny.
The 68-year-old bladesmith has turned his own residence into a weaponry museum that exhibits a dazzling collection of some 5,000 weapons, some of which date back to the prehistoric era. Guo started collecting in his 20s and knows the origin and history of each piece like the back of his hand.
Swords became single-edged during the Han Dynasty. The blunt edge is thicker so the sword doesn't break easily.
When he was young, Guo never wanted to be a blacksmith like his father. However, he didn't have a choice and eventually followed in his father's footsteps when he was 13 years old. Guo's decades of practice and experience forged him into a master bladesmith. His cleaver can cut through steel like a hot knife through butter.
This steel cable is strong enough to hold 7 to 8 tons, but look at the cleaver, it's still good.
Guo is able to replicate famous weapons that made their name in history. For instance, swords made by Ganjiang and Mo Xie some 2,000 years ago come alive in his hands.
Emperor Wu commissioned Ganjiang to create swords for him in 3 months. His wife, Mo Xie, jumped into the forge because the incineration process brings out the phosphorus and calcium in human bones that absorb all impurities from metal.
The turtle shell and water patterns on the 2 famous swords are forged in the same way as the famous Yuchang sword that was used to assassinate the king of the Chinese state of Qin. Guo Changxi is the first person in Taiwan to craft swords from Damascus steel.
The patterns here look like rain and run down the blade vertically. The sword has 4 faces with different designs. On this side, we have wind and lightning.
The master bladesmith has stayed true to himself despite reaching a celebrity status in his trade at home and abroad. He always shows up with a towel tied around his head and in an old torn shirt that he wears to polish swords.
A lot of people say to me that I'm at an advanced age and don't have to do this anymore. I look at it this way: be thankful to God for giving us a body that's still able to do things.
Though a recipient of Taiwan's National Crafts Awards many times, Guo is still his humble self. He sees it as his duty to promote Taiwan's sword-making industry and constantly looks to sharpen his skills.
There's always bound to be someone who's better than you. If you ask me whether I've completed my apprenticeship, I would say no, because there are new things to learn. My museum is open to our future generations to educate them about the weapons made in different eras and dynasties. I want to preserve the legacy of sword forging.
Guo Changxi hopes that, through his skills and efforts, he will be able to share with the world the unique beauty of Chinese weaponry.
Sword forging is not for the faint-hearted. Master bladesmith Guo Changxi ran through one apprentice after another until 3 years ago when a young man named Dong Jiaren showed up at his workshop. Despite the physical challenges of the job, young Dong remains Master Guo's one and only trainee.
Xingda Port is the second biggest of its kind in Taiwan's Kaohsiung city. This 20-year-old sword store with its own workshop belongs to master bladesmith Guo Changxi. Many people have asked to be his apprentice, but invariably bailed out from the labor and pressure.
Everyone seems to think that blacksmithing is easy and a few years is enough to master the craft. A lot of people want to become a blacksmith, but they give up during their apprenticeship.
3 years ago, Dong Jiaren, who was 24 years old at that time, left his job as a well-paid chef in Jiayi to learn the art of sword making under Guo.
I've always had an interest in swords and weapons since young. I've also wanted to try my hands at forging weapons, without knowing if I have what it takes. I want to at least give it a try while I'm still young.
When he came to me requesting apprenticeship, I asked him what he was doing at the time. He said he was a chef and earns more than $1,000 a month. I told him he has to be prepared to be paid very little as an apprentice.
Guo usually treats Dong Jiaren like a son when they're not around the forge, when the bladesmith turns into a stern disciplinarian.
If you don't do the curvature well, this side will be higher than the other.
At the beginning, I was afraid I might not be able to pull through, and I promised him that I wouldn't bail out. It's more than 3 years now, and I will carry on no matter how hard it is.
Guo says that sword crafting is a high-risk profession, as injuries are virtually unavoidable. Every step therefore requires extreme concentration and an ability to deal with pain. Arms scarred by burns, Dong Jiaren, however, remains undeterred.
It takes less than a second for the burn to do damage. It feels a little hot in the beginning, then it goes numb, and before you realize it, the burn already ate into the flesh.
Not one to give up, Dong Jiaren has followed in Guo's footsteps into the world of weapon forging without turning back. He knows he has to be tough to excel in the industry.
This industry is losing people and there are no newcomers. If possible, I want to pick up the mantle and introduce the art of sword making to more people.
As the old saying goes, there are only top students but not top masters. They're always able to come up with innovations that we do not even dare think of.
Although he only scored a 40 in the eyes of Guo Changxi, Dong Jiaren believes that with time and hard work, he will one day surpass his master and become an expert in Taiwan's steel and metal craft industry.
In Canada, during Earth Day on Sunday, April 22nd, Tzu Chi volunteers held their annual Adopt a Street program in Langley. 30 volunteers picked up litter along 2 busy streets. In just one morning, they collected 5 garbage bags.
Today we have 2 streets to clean. We will divide it between 4 groups, and 2 groups are responsible for 1 street.
After assigning the tasks, the volunteers equip themselves with garbage bags, trash grabbers, and gloves. Now fully prepared, the first Langley Adopt a Street program officially starts.
Go, go, go!
To clean the 2 busy streets, 30 volunteers divided themselves into 4 groups. Facing a massive amount of garbage, the volunteers not only have to look after their own safety, but also use their wisdom when picking up the trash. To save strength, a volunteer puts the cigarette butts in a plastic cup. The volunteers also bend down to look for garbage in the bushes and even pick up a cup in a ditch.
Did you first time to see us?
Yes, actually, the first time I've seen you coming along here, but wonderful work that you're doing, so thank you. I think it's wonderful to be looking after the earth and also for just keeping the place tidy, but most especially to set a good example.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really, it's wonderful.
Through a morning of hard work, the volunteers have collected 5 bags filled with trash. A volunteer also encourages a local resident to join the program.
Join our recycle volunteer.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So a group of people.
Yeah, we are a group. Yeah.
And we can bring a group.
Yeah. Oh, no problem.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
you can join us. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The trash problem in Langley is nothing compared to Indonesia's capital of Jakarta. The population of 12 million people produce around 6,500 tons of garbage a day. Making a contribution to the solution, Tsuji has 16 recycling stations in Indonesia.
Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia, has a population over 12 million. The massive population means they will produce a large amount of garbage.
Every day, the city of Jakarta produces approximately 6,500 tons of trash. Compared to other cities, this figure is very high.
According to the Jakarta Health Department, 50% of the garbage is organic waste that can decompose in soil, while 44% is non-organic, such as paper and plastics, which are non-biodegradable. If the trash is not taken care of, it will block the water pipes, which may cause flooding in the city or even a landslide.
The easiest and most productive way is to practice recycling in our families.
Tsuji has been promoting recycling for over 21 years. Receiving support from the government, 16 recycling stations have been established, starting from the city of Jakarta to Medan, Bekasi, and others. Through recycling, not only can we save ourselves and our planet, but also turn garbage into gold.
Of the 16 recycling stations in Indonesia, 6 are in Jakarta. The Kosambi station in the west of the city collects 6 to 8 tons of recyclables a month. Built on land donated by Mr. Zhang Jianzhong, the station has helped bring the community closer together. But Mr. Zhang had to win over community leaders who were afraid it would turn into a garbage dump.
Just right after sunrise, many seniors from the Kosambi village in West Jakarta have already arrived at the recycling station.
I feel very cozy in this recycling station. We always come here to chat and have fun.
Seeing the happiness the seniors gain, the volunteers decided to hold the recycling day from 3 days a week to every day. The landowner Zhang Jianzhong was very pleased.
My initial purpose of establishing this recycling station was to encourage the seniors to join Tsuji and practice recycling instead of living in a nursing home.
After visiting recycling stations in Taiwan, Zhang Jianzhong went back to Indonesia and decided to donate about 660 square meters of land to Tsuji.
We faced many difficulties before the establishment of the recycling station. I had to convince the people in charge of this community. They were afraid that this place will soon become a dump.
With help from everyone, in December 2011, the first recycling station in Kosambi village was finally launched. Every month, the station collects around 6 to 8 tons of recyclables and has become a place to exchange second-hand clothes. Learning sign language, holding study groups, and sharing the Dharma, the establishment of this recycling station not only turns garbage into gold, but also brings the local residents together.
Back in Taiwan, Taichung City Government held a vegetarian food festival on Wednesday. To cut down on food miles, the cooks used all locally grown produce. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for watching DaAi Headlines. Goodbye.